Hi, everyone, and welcome to RELEX Talks, our monthly live stream on LinkedIn where we discuss the latest and most interesting topics touching on supply chain, retail, CPGs, and more. We are live on the second Wednesday of every month at 9 a.m. sharp Eastern, rain or shine. So you can follow RELEX Solutions on LinkedIn to keep up to date with the latest developments in the retail and CPG world. I'm your host, Casey McSherry. Today we are joined by Amanda Oren, the VP of Industry Strategy and Grocery in North America here at RELEX, Asa Farquhar, Solutions Principal, Price Promotions, long history in price and promotions optimizations as a retailer, joined RELEX early this year, and Gaurav Pant, the Chief Insights Officer at Incisiv. So today we are going to be discussing a brand new report, the State of Pricing and Promotions. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. Welcome to the show. Sorry. Do you guys want to go around and introduce yourselves briefly?
Sure. So as Casey said, my name is Amanda Oren. I have been at RELEX for about 5 months now. Prior to this, I was in industry for my entire career. I was in retail. I did some apparel, some home goods, and the last 13 years or so in grocery. And during that time frame, I did have purview over pricing and promotions in several different roles.
Awesome. Asa, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Good morning, everyone. My name is Asa Farquhar. I'm a solutions principal here at RELEX, and I've been with the company. I started early this year, so long history in price and promotion optimization, merchandising. Always been on the retailer side, so excited to talk to you all today.
I guess that leaves me. So Gaurav, I'm the Chief Insights Officer at Incisiv. Been associated, kind of been on the fringes of the industry to consulting and other roles for close to 2 decades with pricing and promotions, but focused on research for the last, I guess, 10, 15 years now. So always a student of the industry, never graduating, which is a great place, no debt, and get to learn a lot.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here today, guys. So let's first talk a little bit about this report, the State of Pricing and Promotions. It's freshly out of the oven. So we surveyed 157 people in leadership positions in retail companies in the US. The report includes data from Europe and the US, but for this episode, we're zeroing in on the US market because we've got some of the top experts in US retail with us today. So Gaurav, can you please tell us a little bit more about the report and Incisiv?
Sure. So let me actually talk to the report first because I think you teed it up well, which is the question actually when you kind of do any of these pieces of research or surveys is really why is this important and why is this relevant right now in this point in time? And if you just kind of think back to the the environment that we've had from a macroeconomic perspective and how shoppers have reacted, the importance of pricing promotions has only increased, and we've seen enough shopper data, our own data, kind of talking about we believe there's a reset in retail happening where it's all about value. And in that context, this survey becomes extremely important because it shines a light on the capabilities that retailers or brands need from a pricing and promotions perspective to actually compete and win. And so what we focus on is understanding the importance, the maturation, the challenges, and very critically, the tech debt, which you talk about that retailers are saddled with, which kind of stops us kind of making that leap forward. And like I shared earlier, Incisiv is a global market insights firm. So we work with companies like yours and brands and retailers to kind of just help navigate this very complicated and uncertain world, and have a bit of fun, learning and sharing insights along the way.
Amazing. And I think we have some slides that we can show. So let's look at the first of the 3 findings that we want to unpack today. There's plenty more to discover, and you can access the whole report on our website next month. So first, according to the survey data, I think, yes, promotions drove 20.6% of retail sales in 2023. So that's a fifth of sales coming from promotions. So Amanda, Asa, is that a typical figure that we see?
That does feel typical to me, but really shows kind of what a focus there has been over the last however many years on driving sales through promotions. I think that this is relatively new. I don't think this was the case, 20, 30 years ago, but I think there's been a big surge in using promotions as a vehicle to drive not just sales, but also traffic into stores with the help of advertising for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I think promotions has become more important to drive traffic and loyalty. So we're seeing promotions become more and more advanced, more and more targeted. And I think retailers have learned to focus there to gain and build loyalty with their customer base.
Yeah, and why is that the case? What's so special about promotions? Asa, do you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. Promotions are special because they can have such a great effect on the customers and the overall perception of price at a retailer. So, um, our solution really helps retailers understand customer behavior and how promotions will impact them financially, but also more advanced level. It helps them understand cannibalization, halo effect, those types of things. So we like to call it true lift when we measure promotional performance. And what that helps us do is help the retailer truly understand how that promotion is performing and what effects it's having on customer behavior across the assortment and across the basket.
Yeah, and why do promotions succeed or fail, and how does RELEX help ensure success there?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We actually see with customers that we've worked for, with retailers we've worked for or worked with, that 1 in 3 promotions fail. So they fail in the sense that they fail to meet their objective. So if their objective is to drive traffic, they're not driving traffic. If their objective is to increase margin or boost the basket, it's not having that impact. And what we see first is that oftentimes retailers don't have a tool to manage promotions in a complex way and really understand and predict what they're going to do. But also, they don't have a good understanding of how to optimize promotions based on elasticity and many of the other factors that our tool helps retailers really understand and manage.
Awesome. And just so everybody watching knows, this report is available for everyone on October 7th, just in time for grocery shop. RELEX will be there as well to meet all grocery enthusiasts, which is October 7th through 9th. And I'm also going to remind everyone now to book an appointment with us if you want to ensure a private meeting with some of our experts. Anyway, Amanda, you are our in-house grocery treasure trove. Is there anything in particular about promotions at grocers?
Absolutely. So grocers do run a tremendous amount of promotions. Obviously, they're very SKU heavy, and a lot of grocers have a very high percentage of SKUs on promo from every single week. They're not necessarily even all advertised, which is always interesting for me. And I think what Asa said is very true. There's just not a lot of analysis done on the whole. There's a lot of grocers that are not doing analysis to understand if they're seeing the return on their investment. They lower the price, but are they seeing enough lift in volume to gain enough margin dollars to make it worth it? And a lot of times that's not necessarily the case. Even though they're running, I think part of it is that they're running so many promotions that the lift would be very heavy to have to analyze all of them. So a lot of them don't get analyzed. Maybe the big ones do. They go on an end cap, but a lot of the ones that are in the aisle don't. So huge amount of opportunity and definitely a lot of ROI in taking the time to actually analyze and make sure you're not replicating promotions that don't have a good ROI.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I think that's a great point about the post-event analysis. Our tool helps provide a really clear and easy way to do that. And I would add that oftentimes, especially in grocery, which has been a good part of my career, the vendor is really leading or the manufacturer is really leading what's on promotion and what the depth is. And it's largely based off last year. So a lot of times retailers rely on those vendors and their analytics ability, but nobody's closer to the customer than the retailer. So putting that back in the retailer's hands and giving them a great tool and freeing up time to really get strategic and kind of move out of that tactical world where they live day to day building those ads, it enables much greater results than not having a tool and the time to use it.
Yeah, not having the tools can affect you heavily. Touching on our next key finding on this survey, we found that 51% of respondents don't use advanced promotional capabilities. So, Gaurav, can you tell us a little bit more about that and why that is?
Sure, and I'll just add on a couple of points that Amanda and Asa made earlier, Asa, sorry, which is uh, the challenge also with the whole promotional aspect, and especially in the grocery, is that it's like a drug. If you get hooked onto this promotion engine, it's difficult to come off it to figure out how to drive sales overall. And the other aspect is that there is margin erosion. There are other aspects that accompany it as well. So if you don't have the right capabilities, or to what we talked about, just a closed loop system of even measuring whether what we did worked or worked as it should have, it's a very fundamental basic question to answer. Now, the flip side of it, or rather the other side, which is interesting, which is your specific question, is around the maturation overall. One of the findings of the study, and I think you had a chart, is that the number one platform for managing promotions and execution is Excel. Now, one would assume that we're using something slightly more sophisticated than Excel to use it. Now, Excel is great. We are familiar with it. It's flexible. It's low cost. You can make manual adjustments. You can do ad hoc things. You can do all the things that are required to, you know, manage if promotions are only, so little. But to Amanda's point, given the number of promotions we're running, we don't even know if promotions overlap with each other. If, what vendors kind of help drive, which promotional aspect. And that leads to enough confusion from a shopper perspective. Obviously, we lose kind of, have money on the table that we can't really get to. And fundamentally, we're not prepared for, forget omni-channel, but just consistent execution of our promotional and pricing strategies, which I think is a huge risk, and I think is a huge margin loss overall. And on the other side, and we have this later on, which is still a lot of the promotional aspects are outdated, if not outdated, at least legacy rule-based approaches to promotions versus something that actually looks at more recent customer behavior impact or feedback from prior promotions to see, hey, this is cannibalization. Maybe we focus our dollars and efforts here. Without it, you're just getting to the point, you're getting some money for these promotions, but most of it is just you're just blowing it up in smoke. And to me, that's something that's a big challenge and opportunity, which is just a little bit of nuance, sophistication there, I think can lead to definite improvement in margin, especially as you talk about razor thin, margins in grocery.
Yeah, I can add to something that Gaurav said, which I thought was really true, which is I think a lot of times the customer is really confused. So there was a grocer that I recently worked at where the buyers had all of the control of what items to run promotions on. So they used promotions as tools, and different buyers use promotions differently. So you could go down one aisle and see every third item on promo, and then turn the corner and go down the next aisle, and there would be maybe one or two items on promo in the entire aisle. And that was a result of, buyers feeling differently about what the lift they thought they might see from a promo, once again, without necessarily doing a huge amount of analysis. So that led to just a lot of confusion from customers, I think. Like, what does a promo mean? Is it really a good deal when everything's on promo all the time? Is that, what does that mean? And is it really going to drive a difference in behavior? Not necessarily.
Yeah, and so with these analytics being so valuable and important, what's the barrier there? What's difficult about adopting analytics and other tools? Amanda, as you were saying, you work with some of our customers a lot. What are the typical hesitations that they may have?
I think that most of our customers have a roadmap of all of the things that they need to work on from a technology standpoint, and this doesn't always rise to the top. I think there's a lot of other priorities and competing priorities, or maybe it should rise to the top, I think, because it does have a tremendous ROI, but people don't always think of it as the most important thing to focus on. There's a lot of focus on price often over promotional analysis. And I think that's because obviously if you can get the price right, it impacts the whole assortment, not just the items on promo. So I think pricing is often where focus goes instead of promotions. And the other thing is just generally kind of change management. I think I have seen, not necessarily in this space, but more broadly, organizations spend a lot of time and effort and money implementing a solution then they have a hard time getting the users to actually adopt. So I think that's always a barrier, especially when it's not a transactional solution that the system, the company has no choice but to adopt. That can lead to it being a barrier to even start.
Yeah. And Asa, how does RELEX help retailers overcome these hurdles in your experience?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Well, first, when we engage with retailers, we do what we call a deep needs assessment. So we really try to spend a really significant, meaningful amount of time with the customer, with various stakeholders, to really understand what their problems are, what their current technology is, why they want to make a change, and what the impact will be to them. So we spend a really large amount of time making sure that we truly understand their needs and how we can help improve them. Next, we document all those challenges, business processes, and work with that retailer to understand which of our solutions best fit their needs. And again, many cross-functional teams, especially with promotion. I think Amanda was absolutely right when she was talking about just how complex promotions can be. There's so many teams. There's marketing, there's buyers, there's category management, there may be space team members, logistics, really all the way across the board. Promotions are really driving a lot of activity and work within an organization. So we work there. And then before implementation, we set and share goals that we're accountable to. So, and then lastly, we work with our partners to make sure the implementation is strong. But also to answer that question on how we help, we really give the visibility to the past and help optimize the future. So with our machine learning and AI, we're able to analyze all of the historical transactions that we're able to get our hands on and various other factors so that we can really produce a forecast and a prediction and an optimization at a really granular level to help the retailer meet their goals. So, and we've seen great results with those that we've worked with.
Amazing. And I see we have a question here from David, which is, how do grocers avoid the traps of implementing a promotional strategy where shoppers only shop the promotions? So almost the promotions work too well, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that happens quite often. We can kind of get in a pattern where we train the customer to only look for those promotions. One of the ways you can avoid that is we can make sure that we are planning far enough out and that we're planning promotions with a specific goal. So a lot of times promotions, especially in grocery, are just, hey, vendor gives me 50 cents a unit, so I better put it on sale. I better mark it down slightly. And really you need to take the approach of analyzing every promotion and setting a goal for it. And that goal might be to boost the basket. It might be to just get top line revenue. It might be to bring new customers in that don't typically shop you. So you got to have a balanced strategy there and not just kind of throw every piece of vendor funding or promo opportunity into production.
Yeah, good answer. So we've hit a lot on the promotion side, but the report is titled The State of Pricing and Promotions. So I guess you could say that promotions is the exception, whereas the pricing is the everyday. Do you agree with that, Asa?
Yeah. The everyday for the majority of retailers, the everyday base price really is the bulk of their business.
Yeah. And one of the interesting discoveries in the report to me is that the respondents of some pretty big retailers here in the US said that their pricing capabilities maturity is lower than that of their promotions. Gaurav, any thoughts on that particular?
Sure. It's actually there are two elements to that. The first is that the capabilities from pricing perspective, especially as we think of advanced optimization, dynamic, are lower or behind. However, they do have platforms that kind of support pricing as opposed to just Excel. And I think it's got to do a lot with the fact that pricing is a core strategic function. It's also something where you need financial oversight and transparency. So you need systems of record and things to kind of help manage it, track and kind of execute on that. The challenge of it not being, having predictive or dynamic or changing prices on the fly is a function of the fact that I think the point to mention about brand perception kind of gets affected in, how often we do it, what does the brand stand for? I think that's something that comes to the fore, especially right now, because, when price is perception, you have presidential candidates talking about price gouging and shrinkflation, and the fact that it affects perception or, how the brand may be kind of be kind of perceived overall. The second thing is, even from an execution perspective, getting price changes approved, executing it at the end of the store is a way more complex and difficult process. It's not as simple as kind of turning things on. So I think all of those things kind of contribute to it. And the final piece is, and it's there in our survey as well, there's a huge amount of, I think, legacy or cultural inertia involved in the fact that we can't touch this sacred, deer in that sense of pricing, kind of modifying it so dynamically or change it. And that perception will only change over a period of time. I think it's a slow burn, but I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that number that you kind of quoted is going to kind of go up over a period of time. That's at least my assessment or looking at the crystal ball.
Yeah, awesome. Another thing from the report, 41% of respondents said that their promotional capabilities are either advanced, dynamic, or optimized, while this was the case for only 33% when it came to pricing. Why is that, Asa? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this one did surprise me a little bit, but I think that promotion in most organizations is such a large cross-functional weekly event that that organizations may tend to believe that they're a little more advanced than they potentially are, and I think there's been many tools out there to kind of build the ad in a process flow way, but not truly optimize what the promotions are, what items are in the ad, what price are they at, what type of offers. So I think there's still a lot of optimization to come across the board on the promotion side.
Yeah, and so as a retailer, do you think you should invest in one or the other first, or both at the same time?
Yeah, I think I'd love to get Amanda's opinion here, but I guess what I definitely believe is that you can't treat promo and price, either of them, in a vacuum. You have to have a coherent strategy that combines them both. And our solution does that, by the way. Our solution really takes into account promotion, is aware of base pricing, the rules and the methodology work together, the workflows work together. And we also take into account, of course, space awareness and inventory awareness as well. But I do believe that you have to do both, at least in the sense of having a coherent strategy. As far as implementation, it can be a lot. It can be really monumental undertaking to do both at the same time. And in that case, I think a retailer needs to really look at which is going to give them the most ROI, and really help them achieve their goals, which many times will be promotion first. It will give them a little bit more ability to quickly make an impact. We like to say, stop doing stupid things. So many times in promotions, when I mentioned 1 out of 3 fail, many of those promotions help the organization lose a tremendous amount of money. So, and they're not driving good price perception necessarily. They're not helping bring in new customers. They're just simply losing money. So I think those are the ones, if you can stop doing them right away, that's one of the quickest ROIs possible, is just identify and stop doing some of those bad promotions.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Amanda?
Yes. The other thing I was going to say, so I totally agree, because I think there is a lot of confusion actually from customers as well around the difference between a markdown or price reduction and a promotion. Like, it's not always clearly signed. So sometimes there's temporary price reductions that are treated like promotions, but the customer doesn't know that. So I absolutely think the two are very, very intertwined. And I think it really depends on the organization in terms of which one, if you are going to do them one or the other, it depends on which one you'll see a better ROI. I think that has a lot to do with how much work's already been done on pricing at a given organization. So there's some organizations that even without a tool have a pretty good sense for where they're priced in the market by item. They've kind of cobbled together their own makeshift solutions that allow them to understand competitive pricing and they have a strong sense of where they sit in that market, whereas others are less mature on that path. So I think it kind of depends on the organization, but I do think that doing them together in tandem is the best option for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And so if 20% of retail sales is driven by promotions, that means the rest is regularly priced products. And are the challenges the same for pricing as they are for promotions? What are some of the differences there? Asa, do you want to jump on that one?
Sure. Yeah. The bulk of the non-promo sales are those base sales. There's some markdown or clearance, depending on how you want to categorize it, at most retailers, but it's typically a small percentage. As far as the challenges, I think from a kind of internal structural process flow, many of them are the same challenges. Many cross-functional groups, lack of data in different places to do good analysis. And I think where it starts to get different is where the goals are and what promotion drives or can help drive for an organization versus base price. So that they'll have different strategies once you get down to whether it's promo or regular price. But a lot of those logistical and technological challenges, getting the price down to the stores, printing labels, those types of things are really pretty similar. And our system can help improve both of those areas.
Awesome. Amanda, do you want to add anything to the pricing versus promotions?
Yeah, just the only thing I would say is because they're not siloed and they really do live together, having them in one place, I think would be a huge benefit. It's kind of like a 1 + 1 = 3 situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so should one be prioritized over the other? And how exactly does RELEX bring both under the same roof? And what benefits does that have?
Yeah, I can take that one. I believe prioritization should be based on the retailer and what their needs are, what their challenges are, what their sophistication on either promo or base is to kind of start with. But what we bring to the table, what RELEX brings to the table is one solution. So it's a unified solution. It's the same tool to manage base and promotions. And when that gives you the ability to do is all of your scenario planning, all of your rule setting, all of your strategy setting, to do that in one spot, and then tactically be aware of promotions and base price changes at the same time. So you're not wasting time changing base prices that are going to be on promo coming up, or you're not going to be doing promos when you know you're going to be doing a large base price reset, as an example. So it really helps you optimize. I think the other reason that implementation or that change can be hard here is that without an advanced tool, it's really hard to do scenario planning. So in our tool, if you're an executive and you want to know, well, what if we stop our competitive indexing, maybe as part of our strategy today versus a particular competitor, we can make those changes in the system, run it, and see what the differences are. So I think the ability to at many levels with an organization allow for very quick and accurate scenario planning allows you to free up the time to actually look at different strategies versus just always be tactically trying to get through the next ad.
Yeah. All right. And I don't think that we have any questions. We're just about at time here. So I guess it's time to wrap up for today. We covered the Incisiv pricing and promotions report and touched a little bit on how a personalized and specific approach for the retailer can benefit each person individually, and making sure that you have the right tools to plan your strategy. So thanks everyone for tuning in today. Don't forget to follow RELEX Solutions on LinkedIn for insights in the upcoming episode on October 9th, right on time for the final day of grocery shop. And don't worry if you can't catch us live. It's an early morning in Vegas. Our shows are available on demand and on our LinkedIn page and on our YouTube channel. So Asa, Amanda, Gaurav, thank you so much for joining us today. Your insights were super valuable. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.